My name is Eric Kimondo. Help me to welcome Mr. Felix Nzuki from Otipro, Kenya Limited, and he's here together with us to talk to us about a new topic, which is the pillars of business. And specific today, we are going to see the power of effective communication. Karibu sana, Mr. Felix.
Thank you so much, Eric.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. I'm happy to be here. By the grace of God.
Wow.
It's a wonderful day. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Good to see you. Last time you were here, you boiled our brains.
Hey.
Naona umekuja kutuchangamsha tena.
We are building on that.
We are building on that.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
I remember last time we were talking about competencies for employability.
Yeah.
So communication will build on that. Yes.
Wow. Talking of the topic here, which is the pillars of business. These are things you cannot run a successful business without.
Yes.
What is the power of effective communication in a business? Just before we get to the question number one.
You know, communication is such a powerful pillar, such that it can make or break. Communication alone is like when you're looking at a house and you remove one of the central pillars. It means you've introduced such a big source of weakness, and anything can happen, including collapse. So we are saying a business can actually collapse on the account of ineffective communication, poor communication, miscommunication is enough to bring a company down. It is that powerful.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, we've seen politically nations changing, revolutions coming because of communication. Communication is powerful, even at the family level. So it's an interesting subject to dig deeper to understand what is this power hidden in communication.
Wow. And what drives you to the choice of the word effective communication?
You know, the other day we were saying, in a single day, an average adult will make 35,000 decisions, which means the mind is constantly processing. And when you're processing, you want to speak. So we are in constant communication. So there's a lot of communication.
Wow.
But what percentage of that is effective? So now we have to qualify our statement by saying we are looking at effective communication. Not every communication will bear fruit. It's not just us start talking and communicating. We have really to understand what is the difference between communication and effective communication.
Wow. How does communication relate with interpersonal skills?
Thank you for that question. Last time when we introduced the subject of competencies which make one more employable, we talked about 7 competencies, and the key one on that is communication. Communication is on the top. So when a person is able to build now the capacity, the ability to articulate the value they are proposing, the problem they are solving, and to such an extent where they're able to persuade the recipient. You know, effective communication has 2 objectives. Objective number 1, you are communicating to persuade. Number 2, you're communicating to influence. If your communication can achieve persuasion, and also you can achieve influence, then it means you're moving. So when we look at interpersonal skills, we want to consider communication as one of the biggest. I was looking to really what communication has done at a global platform. I was remembering Martin Luther King Jr., born in 1914, assassinated in 1968. But around 1955, when he got into power, up to today, we remember he said about, I have a dream.
I have a dream.
Everyone in our generation is speaking about that because it was coming to influence the end of racism. Because even after America had gotten independence, you realize that racism continued. So Martin Luther was such an activist, and through the power of communication, he was able to influence mindsets, a certain way of thinking, to show that this thing is evil and it must come to an end. It was such a powerful thing. To date, when we say, I have a dream, you can always relate. You can remember, where did this come from? So this is how powerful communication can be. A lot of times, when we have issues, even in our social circles, let's say at a family level, and there is a problem, of course, people will go for counseling. And a lot of time, when you do a root cause, when you're finishing, you realize the problem was actually communication. Where when you go to our workplaces and things are not moving, people are fighting each other, people are blaming each other. When you spend time with that team and you begin to understand what is the problem, you will start getting, now there's a problem of communication in this place. So communication is attacking us from all corners. You know, a business or an organization is built on the foundation of culture. I know we spoke about culture last time. When we said in culture, you want to think about the governing principles, where we have the mission, the vision, and the values. So when you walk into an organization, and this is not well articulated, that not everyone ascribes to the mission and vision and the values of the company, it means now the problem you want to focus on is on the effectiveness of communicating that governing principle. We also talk about organizational structure and culture. A few organizations have gone. A lot of times you find that there's some sort of confusion. It's not very clear who takes command from who is responsible for what results. There's some confusion. Who do you report to? Sometimes you report to 3 people. You introduce a lot of confusion. So now you also realize the organization structure is not effectively communicated. You come down to unity of purpose. Every organization will exist for a certain mandate. They have a certain purpose. So again, when the unity of purpose is not communicated, it becomes like the story of the Tower of Babel. Where when God realized these people are united in purpose, he had to do something to break the agenda. So that happens again when there's no purpose is not effectively communicated. Then everyone, they're pulling their own side. We're not pulling to the same direction. Again, the problem is effective communication of what does this organization exist for. So breaks begin to cracks begin to show from that perspective. Again, we talked about routines or rituals on the basis of culture. So routines like productivity, routines like everything we do to make sure we are product. So when these are not properly communicated, again, that's why we say we are not on the same page. You talk to someone and you realize they're not speaking your language. Then you tell them, I think we are not on the same page. So communication has been largely underrated. A lot of time we want to solve symptoms. Instead of digging deeper to understand, are we effectively passing the message? You realize you only pass the message when the recipient is able to do what you're expecting, what you have in your mind. If they're not able really to interpret that in the manner which you're expecting, then it means communication is not effective. So it's a wide subject, a subject which everyone within an organization must be trained to a level where now we can now communicate at the same platform, so that we can say we are on the same page in terms of understanding, in terms of vision, in terms of desires. And then we will move very fast as a company. Wow. This is the power of communication.
Wow. Wow. It's indeed a pillar.
Yeah, it is a pillar.
Wow. Why is communication critical for business?
Criticality of communication, we'll look at this from two angles.
Okay.
Internally in an organization and also externally. When we look internally, we want to have seamless operations.
Okay.
We want to have an environment where everyone can execute their mandate within an organization, and everyone can bring out their best of strengths. You must have heard this terminology of toxic workplace.
Yeah, it's common right now.
Yeah. What brings about toxicity in a workplace? That climate in an organization whereby people are not able to function. People are not able to bring their A game. People feel they're not listened to. People feel they're not being heard. People feel even they're not understanding what is required of them because there's lack of clarity. So when you look inward in an organization, then you realize that when we are broken within a team, we are not going to deliver our purpose. The organization exists to solve a problem, an external problem, whereby now the consumer will buy your solution and you're going to make your money, and then you're going to be able to pay your staff. So internally, when communication is not effective, now it kills the dream of the company, such that now you begin to solve problems which should not be there if communication was effective. You realize now when you look at leadership, we have levels of leadership, and from every level, there are guidance and directions you need to communicate to your team. A lot of time, we have seen challenges at that area, whereby starting from the founder, the governing team, there's no clear communication. Then the executive team also, there's a lot of guesswork, there's a lot of gray areas, and what that does is to introduce a lot of confusion within the system. So now when the workers are left on their own, then they begin to discover what they need to do. Maybe they don't deliver to the 100% of their abilities. So that's why a recent survey concluded that an average worker will give you around 2.5 hours of productivity within a day.
But they're there for 8 hours.
Yeah, you're paying them to give you value for 8 hours. But now, because they have reported in the workstation and expectations are not communicated by their supervisor with that level of clarity, with that level of organization, to a level whereby they don't need to guess things, a lot of things will be left unattended. So we don't want to blame the work. It's a problem of the entire system. So when communication is not organized properly from top, not documented, then we begin to see now those kind of cracks, and inefficiencies begin to show in whatever organization. Now look at it at a social level, even at our family level. When the father does not communicate to the kids, then there will be also the same kind of confusion. And what happens is a lot of blame game. Because we think you should be doing something in a certain way, but now I've not made that so clear. So now we introduce that kind of communication. So communication is quite a science.
Yeah.
It's quite an art. It's something we train people over time. And then when you grow into effective communication, you realize things are changing. You begin to realize, oh, there are results every day. So I know we'll get into that. But now we need to appreciate the breadth and the width of communication. So communication can break, it can create relationships, it can create or break opportunities. So in a marketplace, there are opportunities. So now, if in an organization you have a team which is supposed to go for those opportunities, this is the marketing team. Now, looking outward, the marketing team is supposed to communicate the unique value proposition of a company. Why are we different as a company? Why is our product superior? Why is our product the best in the market? So now, this packaging of information to the outside world determines the level of consumption. So now when this is very clear, now you realize now we can sell and we can attract the revenue we're looking for. So a lot of time also I've seen a lot of weakness on that area where an organization is not able to communicate their unique value proposition with that clarity, such that now their differentiation is able to show.
Yeah.
So externally, we use communication for marketing.
Okay.
Internally, we use communication for operational efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those two are very key. If we build now internal efficiencies and we have the market, enough market, then it means we're in good business.
Wow. It's such a perfect marriage.
Yeah. So when you tell me a company, ABC company is struggling, then we want to look internally. How is their communication structured?
Okay.
How effective is the communication within the internal system? Externally, what message are they telling the consumer? What message are they giving the public? You move into some of these websites and you cannot pick exactly what you're looking for as a consumer. Then you start looking for the next possible provider of the same. Now the differentiator is the ability to communicate effectively. Understanding what is the need of the consumer. So this can affect whether it's a small business, even to big organizations. So it is the same principle. Effective communication at all levels.
Wow, amazing.
Yes.
Tuingie to how do you develop this, because it's much needed.
Yes.
How do you develop the art of effective communication?
The art of effective communication is quite a broad subject.
Yeah.
Because we want to look at communication at 3 levels. Now, there's what we call non-verbal communication. There's verbal communication, which we break into 2. You know, someone said, it's not what you say. It is how you say it. So that breaks now the verbal communication into 2. The how you say, and then the what you say. So I will look at this from the 3 angles. We will go through now non-verbal communication, then verbal communication, which will break now the how you say, and the content, what you say. So if we can start with the first one, non-verbal communication represents 55% of how we are going to judge you. Now, the opinion we will form when you speak, you present yourself before an audience. The moment you stand before an audience, they start forming opinion. They start making conclusions. They start making judgments about your credibility. Whether they're going to give you their trust, whether you are worth their time, they are already forming these opinions about you. It is based on what? So you've not spoken a word. You've just presented yourself, and now we are ready forming an opinion. Because when we look at you, now we are listening from you by our eyes. We're looking at what are you telling us when we look at your eyes? What are we hearing when we look at your face? What are we hearing when you look at your shoulders? What are we hearing when you look at your sitting posture? What are we hearing when you look at your body language? So really, this subject is called the art of body language.
Wow.
I'm sure you've heard about body language.
Yeah.
It's a science which we spend a lot of time to understand, because now the eyes communicate. The other day I was talking with my friend who comes from the Maasais. He tells me that when you go to face a lion, the communication is with the eyes. You just need to look at it and it will understand clearly. Here we are not going to engage. Here I need to give way. This is not the type I scare. Just from the look at the eyes, it's very clear that message has already been passed. So a lot of time we don't, because this happens subconsciously, we don't remember that we are saying something by our facial expressions, our body language. If I'm anxious, if I'm uncomfortable, then a lot of people will start showing by their hands. If you're holding something, you keep a lot of movements within your hands. If I'm sitting down and I'm talking to you, and I happen to lean back a lot, it means I'm pushing myself away from you. Why? Because I'm trying to be either defensive, I'm either uncomfortable. So that is what we are reading. When you hear people saying, I'm reading between the lines. Wow. It's what subconsciously are you communicating without really saying a thing?
Wow.
So when we come to professional settings, we take this quite important, because you want to position yourself to persuade people. You want to position yourself to sell a product. So you want to be persuasive. You want to be credible. You want to show trust. So in professional settings, especially in business, now we train our people how to present themselves, the etiquette of body language, all the way from the smallest detail, like how do you shake hands in a business way. When if we were standing, how should I present my posture? You see, like if I stand before you, I will stand at ease, legs a bit apart, and then my hands will be in this position. Or this position, but I will not put my hands behind my back. I will not put my hands here. What does this mean? It means I'm bored. So subconsciously you might not be aware, but now if you're preparing yourself for serious business, it's very important to understand now the science of body language. Wow. It can tell a lot. So when I'm looking at you, then we need eye contact to mean that I am listening. So if you're a good listener, you're encouraging your consumer to continue saying more. So a lot of time we've missed an opportunity by the way we have expressed ourselves through the non-verbal communication. Remember I said 55% of our opinion is based on our judgment before you say a word. Wow. So if you're going to be credible, before even you say anything, I've already made an opinion and already concluded whether I'm going to buy from you, whether I need to trust you, whether you're the right person to be in my social circle, whether we can have a conversation. Why? Because I'm just reading. And subconsciously, the human mind is wired in such a way it will pick those signals. and you are communicating signals the moment you start presenting yourself. So I know we are speaking to both the upcoming generation and also the business people, the elderly citizens. These things are quite critical. They become extremely important. So non-verbal communication, we need to be aware. Things which we have been doing wrong, we need to be at least consciously aware, and we need to seek to know what is the best way. Yes.
Wow.
If you're doing a presentation in a stage and you're speaking to an audience, again, your stage presence begins to matter. There's a concept we call executive presence. Because you want to engage in a business transaction with me. So you want to make sure I'm able to go into my pocket and release that value in terms of money and buy your solution. So I need to perceive you as with a certain level of authority. So your presentation should speak executive presence. So what are those things? What is that demeanor which will work against you? So there, it's quite a broad thing. There's an example I was given the other day of a lady who was quite good lady, good attitude, but now anytime she got into a relationship, she would lose the partner within three months.
Oh my.
Every time. And then when she went for counseling, when she's talking to this counselor, the eyes open wide immediately, and the shoulders get raised. She raises the shoulders. You know, that means authority and power. So anytime she's talking to potential young men, she's showing a lot of power, such that now she's carrying them. She has a pleasant personality, but she's not aware now what the body language is saying to the other people.
Potential sweethearts.
Yeah, so she's carrying them away because she looks very powerful just by the eyes alone. So again, that knowledge of body language is extremely important. Especially both in your social circles and also when you're looking into doing successful business, it becomes extremely important. How do you present yourself when you're speaking to a boss? How do you present yourself when you're speaking to your team members so that they may feel relaxed, so that they may feel they can now pour themselves? How do you present yourself generally? So anything begins to matter. I know we've talking about now the body language. That's why we put a lot of dressing comes into play. The reason why we after every few months, few weeks, you have to keep neat, grooming your hair. All these things are converging into your body language, into your demeanor. And the objective is you want to effectively communicate so that you can persuade, so that you can influence, so that you can get results.
I think these the things that we take for granted. You know, I think sometimes some people don't understand the power that is in those small details.
You know, it's not been our culture per se. African culture. These are things which have not been taught when we were young. So a lot of time we overlook the simple things. So we are beginning to learn these things either from high school, high level, university, at the workplace. But again, if we can now start building this culture even into our children, they begin to know a few things about how you carry yourself around.
Wow. You know, somebody told me the other day that only God looks at you from the heart.
People will look you from all dimensions.
From the outside as they go inside.
Yes, and they will make opinions
Yes.
about you. Sometimes they may get it wrong. Maybe you're credible and trustworthy. It's only that now your demeanor has given a negative signal about you, but maybe that is not what you are. So we lose opportunity. You remember I said effective communication can either make you get opportunity or lose opportunities. That's how important it is. There are a lot of books written about body language. It's something you can access a lot of places. So it is extremely important as to start understanding at least a few things about our expressions when it comes to non-verbal communication.
Wow.
Well, it varies again from culture to culture. When you go to the Asian community, when they're saying yes, they will do this. In Kenya, well, yes, it's this way. I'm told when you're saying okay, in Kenya you'll say it's okay. You don't want to try that in Brazil and in Germany because again it means something different. It's actually offensive. So again, when you become multinational and you're moving around the globe, it's again important to understand different cultural settings. There's a way the Chinese present themselves when they're engaging in business. There's a way you can present yourself before a Japanese and they write you off and the transaction ends there and the discussion ends there. So it's extremely important even to go after now understanding the basic level, even start now looking at other cultures, at other geographies. How do people appreciate presentability?
Wow.
Yes, yes.
Wow. That's the first 55%.
55% is gone. An opinion is already
Already there.
Yes.
Give us the other one. That's non-verbal.
Now, the other one, we're now moving to the verbal. In the verbal, we want to focus on how you say whatever you want to say. Now, the how is also an art, because we will look at a lot of things. When you speak, you stand before people and you want to present a speech, then we look at a few things, because naturally people are not good listeners. So you want to make your speech so captivating to bring them closer home to listening. So there are certain techniques and styles you want to put in place to make sure these people who are not good listeners, others are not willing to listen, others are just distracted. How can you grab their attention? So I'll give a few examples. There's something we call tonality. Tonality is just the quality and the mood of your sound. How does it sound when you begin talking? Rate. What is the speed with which you're talking? Are you considering things we call pauses? Actually, in communication, we call them pregnant pauses. Such that you give people time to synthesize. You're speaking, allow someone to synthesize that, and you're not going to lose them.
Wow.
We also talk about volume. I don't know whether you have had an experience where you're talking to someone and you have to request them to raise their voice. What does that do to their credibility? Every time you're asking them, could you please raise your voice a bit? So volume becomes a consideration when you're talking to people. There are other techniques called diction. Diction is when you're talking, are you swallowing words? Are we really getting everything you say? How is your punctuation?
Wow.
So in communication, there is a number of stylistic devices. I will keep mentioning a few for the benefit of our audience. When you deploy these devices, you're able to make it more attractive. It's like food. You want to make it more delicious by putting some spices. So these are the spices you put in your language, in your delivery, so that you can attract that person who is not very present. You've heard about the rule of three. The rule of three, there's one person who was giving a speech and was saying, we are forming a government of the people, by the people, for the people. You know, that creates what we call emphasis. So the rule of three is just repeating a certain statement 3 times. When we are talking about communication, we want our audience to be always aware that how you speak is actually a performance. It's actually an art. We give you the stage and we want you to perform. We want you to draw all devices you know. We want you to put all the concepts in place. Whether if you're talking on a stage, you're moving slightly from one end to the other, and you're reaching out to all the audience. When it comes to eye contact, you're talking to that team, you're talking to this team, and you're not leaving that team behind.
All right.
So you're connecting with everybody. When you're doing this, you are appealing to the emotions. You are appealing to the heart. When the how speaks to the heart.
Wow.
That's why you say this is what will be memorable. You know, when we were talking about nonverbal communication, that one appeals to the soul. Credibility. Should I trust you? Now you want to appeal to the heart. Should I connect with you? Do I feel you? So this is at an emotional level. So it's extremely important, again, to see how you can communicate to appeal to the emotions. A few times you can throw in humor if you're gifted in that area. You can throw in statements which are memorable. Again, all these things coming into play builds your how. So not everyone is naturally an orator. Not everyone is naturally gifted to give a speech to persuade. There are people who are naturally like that. We know a few. We've been following the likes of Obama in a global platform. There are people, when they just start talking, you want to listen for the next 2 hours. They are deploying some of these stylistic devices for communication. So coming back to business setting, we don't want to underrate these kind of things. We don't want to look down on these things, because this is what is going to make the differentiation. If you're a marketer, you need to you need to build these competencies. I know last time, in the last episode, we just said you need to build communication competencies. But now today we are saying the how. This is the how. If I have a marketing team in my team, I think I will sit them down and send them to a communication class to understand really how to present, because you may win some business just by that presentation.
Wow.
So we have now covered 38%. By the how.
By the how.
Remember, we've not listened to what you say. The content, we've not touched. 55% is gone. 38% is gone.
Wow.
That is 93%.
93%. 7% remaining.
So now, what you want to tell us, the content is now what we call is appeal to the logic, appeal to the intellect, and appeal to the mind.
7%.
That's the last category. That is the lowest level, level number 3. So effective communication, you conquer at nonverbal stage. If you get 55%, it's like you've done a pass mark in your exam.
Wow. Yeah.
If now you do well in the other 38%, you must be now getting A. So now we are ready to listen to the content. But now we are going to listen to that with our mind, with our intellect. We want you to appeal to our logic. So the Greek will call these logos. The first one, they will call it ethos. The emotion, they'll call it pathos. Now they will call this logos, appeal to the logic. Of course, human beings are very logical. They want communication which is sensible. So again, when it comes to that, there's a way you need to package your argument to make sure it is persuasive, it is memorable, and it can deliver. So probably we can take a few minutes to go through that.
Yeah, sure.
So how do you package your argument, your speech, to make sure to the last person, they can understand and comprehend what you're saying? So I will introduce a framework which was discovered by Washington University. It's been working for a few people, including myself. A lot of time I use this kind of approach. It's a 4-level approach where we start with what we call the ill. The ill is like the problem. If you're unwell, you're ill. What is the ill? So when you're looking at defining the ill, we want to define the ill quantitatively and qualitatively. How big is the problem in terms of numbers? And what is the impact in terms of the problem qualitatively? For example, when we are talking about, let's say there's what problem can I take? There's a problem of, let me take the floods. Then I will say that the recent floods in the country have affected 10,000 people, which form a certain percentage of the population. So by bringing these kind of numbers, we begin to balance how big is the problem. If the problem is affecting 10% of the population, then it's really a big problem to draw the attention of the audience. So at that first level, you have the ability to capture the attention by defining. So a lot of times we define a problem qualitatively. We just say we have a big problem. Now it's different than saying, when I say most Kenyans are lacking basic education, and when I say 70% of Kenyans are lacking basic education, which means they've not gone to secondary, they've not gone to university. They only have primary education. 70%. Then you began to feel, if I compare this with another country, whereby the rate of education is 70%, they have access to basic education, then we begin to form opinion. So if we want to strike an attention, define your problem quantitatively. You can support this with credible sources. You can make references to statistics. If there's statistics by credible sources like the National Bureau of Statistics, research done by certain people, it will support your case. So when you do that, you are starting from a good point. And then qualitatively, say, how is this problem affecting people? To what extent? What is the impact? It is causing death. It is causing what kind of problem? So that is how you start, by defining the ill. The second level, you define what you call the blame. This must be coming from somewhere. So how do you associate this problem? Where is it coming from? Have we done a lot of deforestation that we have in floods? Have we messed up with our rivers that we have in floods? What is the cause of this problem? So you know, when you connect the problem with the blame, now it is we begin to see where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? Then when we are very clear and we can substantiate ourselves, then this is the real cause. We can put our blame on this. Then we move to the third level, which is called the cure.
Wow.
So what are we doing about it? So you begin to say that we figured out we have this size of the problem which is caused by this, and we are proposing this kind of approaches. These methodologies can fix the problem. You take people through a number of solutions which you've thought about. So if you're a business, now look at it at that perspective. You're not selling a product, you're solving a problem. You know, we say that business exists to solve a problem. Yeah. So now you're coming by stating the problem, you're telling clearly what is causing this problem, and now finally you present, I have a solution.
Wow.
This is the solution I have. So we call it the cure. This is what we are going to, this is what we are placing on the table to fix this problem.
Wow.
And then finally, we look at what we call consequence, which is basically the impact. There would be a cost. There will be an impact. If you get this solution, then this is how it's going to transform your life. This is how it's going to address the problem. So then you're able to quantify that. And then, of course, you make a call to action. You say, really, everybody deserves an opportunity to enjoy this solution. Everybody deserves a chance. And then people will start looking for your solution. So we have handled now communication, effective communication at 3 levels. From the non-verbal, 55%. Then to the verbal, which is how you deliver your message,
38%.
And then the content, the logic of what you're saying,
7%.
7%. If you master these 3, now we can confidently say you are effectively communicating.
Wow.
If you have a strategy for your company, you do the same process, and you can now deliver, and everyone will be converted. And then there will be transformation. You'll be now influencing. You'll be able to persuade. You'll be able to capture the results of what you're looking for. So this is the importance and criticality of communication.
Wow.
We cannot underrate communication.
We cannot.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. Felix has just spilled the beans on how these big people communicate and why you want to listen to them again and again and again and again. You've given the secrets right here. Define the problem. You've called it the ill.
The ill.
Blame.
The blame.
Give the solution.
The cure.
The consequences.
The consequences or the impact.
Then campaign, or what you say,
call to action. Do something about it.
Wow, such a powerful episode. Thank you so much for those kind of secrets.
You're welcome.
And I know we have rightfully built one of the pillars of business, which is effective communication. Just go back to this episode with a piece of pen and paper, soak in those points and start implementing them. And I know you are going to see results. Talk to us about OptiPro as you give us the phone number.
Thank you so much. OptiPro Limited is the company we formed at the beginning of this year, looking at productivity of businesses, productivity at the level of organizations, productivity at the level of the people. So we really come in to support managers how to implement certain skills to be able to improve performance and productivity, whether it is at the level of structures, governance, strategies. So we are closely working with the organization to make sure that problem they are suffering from, we are able to provide a tested cure.
Wow.
Such that now we are looking at better performance. People can perform better in their areas of calling.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what we exist to do.
Amazing.
And it's we love the transformation we are seeing in the market.
Amazing. Amazing. Every business needs this.
Yes. And if they want to reach me, my number is 0720 32
on this camera.
7978.
Again?
That is 0720 32 7978.
Wow.
You can always WhatsApp me, you can call me, and we can discuss solutions for the business or for your team.
Business doctors there. Call the business doctors. Tunashukuru Mungu. Our special appreciation also goes to Bishop Dr. Thomas Muthe and Reverend Felix Muthe. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, thank you for your prayers. Tunashukuru, tunasema ni asante. I want also to appreciate the people producing the Uchard on Break Show. We have Elvi Sifuna, Peter Maura, and Doreen Mwende, and Sheila Huro. God richly bless you. Together with the entire Prayer Cave TV staff, your labors in the Lord are not in vain. And to you, our viewer, we love you, we appreciate you, and we pray for you every day.